All right, everybody. Thanks for being on the Hammer Podcast. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast, I should say. It's been a long day.
Okay.
It's February 8th, 2023. I'm speaking with Jeneen Miller and James. I guess we can say your last name, James, if you want.
James Swift.
Swift. James Swift. Janine has a YouTube channel, Pieces of Victory. If you haven't subscribed to it, please subscribe to the channel. It's a great channel. You also have a book, Pieces of Victory, as well.
I do.
Okay.
I didn't tell you about that.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. After the podcast, send me the links so I can put them in the description below. Okay.
Wonderful.
Yes. I'm probably going to buy one too.
Oh, wonderful.
So yes, because I've been dying to read it. So just trying to find the time. I'm doing 4 things at once.
I have an audio book available too, by the way.
Yes, I know. But actually, I think when I first talked to you the first time, I said, hey, you ought to get yourself get it on audiobook.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm going to get James to do the same. I think he will.
I will.
He will.
Yes, definitely. Especially for people that are driving in their cars, going on long road trips.
Exactly. It's perfect.
Yep, it's perfect. All right, so Jeneen, right now I want to start with you. And just kind of give us a kind of a short version, because you're on my podcast telling your story, but just to kind of refresh it a little bit, where you went and all that good stuff.
Sure. My name is Jeneen Miller, and I'm a survivor of Victory Christian Academy. It was located in Ramona, California. It started in 1985. That's when it opened. I was locked up in 1988, and I was let out in 1989, but it was an old FBI facility, and it was 12-foot fence with barbed wire, but it was pretty equivalent to, I don't want to offend anybody, but let's just call it a torture camp for argument's sake. And it is not the only camp that's here in the U.S. There's over 100,000 of these types of camps. Wilderness camps, boot camps for kids, conversion therapies, you get the idea. They're abusing our children today, and we are taking our story and using it to spread awareness on what really goes on across the board in this country. Definitely.
And before we get to you, James, just real quick, have you heard anything on Agape? I know Agape closed down, but now they've, I guess in a sense, reopened as Stone of Help.
Yep, Stone of Hope, and it's on the premises. So they're so arrogant that they just reopen on their property, if I'm not mistaken.
The exact same property.
What is it, 0.2 miles, but it's on their property. So they're so arrogant. They just closed it and then rebranded. Why even bother? Why not just keep the school? Because in essence, they are, and all the staff, if I'm not mistaken, is on this property. So what is the perfect example of what happens when we don't prosecute criminals. They will just open and rebrand elsewhere. Usually it's in another state. But can I say names on this show, or
just first names?
Okay. So I'll just say the owner for argument's sake.
Well, he's been in the news, so you can say his full name. Go ahead.
Okay, so Clemenson had the audacity to just open and rebrand it. Why not just keep the name? And you have the same staff and everything there. What, are you magically not going to abuse children anymore? And
I think Clemenson. I think there's too much dirt on Agape. Lawsuits, abuse, allegations. I think, I'm not going to say the smart thing to do, but I think the only thing that he could do
is rebrand it.
Was to rebrand it, and hopefully, probably try and start over. I mean, it's going to be the same ending.
And how could you not know it's going to be the same? It's even on the same property. It's unbelievable. And James and I were just talking about how crazy it is to get a restraining order on DSS. So for the audience that doesn't know anything about this, DSS was inside Agape before it closed down, and children were brave enough to confess what was going on in there. And usually they're so afraid to even open their mouths because it would be 100 times worse for them. They can get beat up more and tortured, almost to death. And they were brave enough to open up to DSS, and they were still having a hard time getting those boys out, even with DSS. And what is this about Clemenson trying to get a restraining order on DSS to buy him time? Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
A restraining order? Who puts a restraining order on DSS? James, do you want to read it?
It says that Clemenson filed for a motion for a temporary restraining order against DSS in Cole County Circuit Court and was granted. So he was able to keep his name off of the registry.
And who granted him? The judge, right? Mm-hmm. Can we say the judge's name?
Sure.
It's in the newspaper.
Yep. Go ahead. What's his name?
To do it, James.
Well,
I'll do the honors.
They're just saying the judge said.
They just said
the judge. Okay.
It up. So the judge did that for him. Bless his heart. I mean, it's just unbelievable how people that are supposed to protect us, politicians that are supposed to protect our children, are not protecting our children and are just beating to the drum of, I hate to say, money.
That's what it is.
His incentive is probably money. That's my guess. And Clemenson was skirted around the child abuse registry. The judge let him off the hook on that too. So no child abuse for now. Thank you, James.
Yes.
So for now, he was able to buy some time for Clemenson. Right.
But you know, everybody. I've always said that it's the money. It's what it is. Everybody has a price, no matter what. If it's a judge, politician, it doesn't matter. Right. Everybody has a price.
And then in the paper, I remember it saying he went from having it millions of dollars to $400,000, and I just thought, poor baby, $400,000.
Yeah.
He's worried about his career and money. He should be worried about prison, but evidently he's not worried about prison. In fact, I believe he made a comment on Colton Schrog. I interviewed Colton Schrog, and I got a notification on my YouTube, and I can say it verbatim of what he said, but it was kind of anonymous. You know how people don't have a picture, don't have really a name. It's a bogus account. He went on a bogus account acting like he was a student, saying, oh, there's nothing wrong. There was no Jurassic elbow. And if anybody got a Jurassic elbow, it's because they deserved it. And I mean, I can read it to you. And then I came about saying, you have all these allegations on you. I said, you must be staff or Clemenson, because no child would say that a kid deserved this.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I said, you're worried about your career. I was talking to him as if it was Clemenson. And I said, you're so worried about your career. I said, you should be worried about getting locked up into prison. And guess what happened? He took it down. If it was a student, they would have kept arguing with me. They wouldn't have taken it down. They would have kept the conversation going. I took still. I should give it to you. It's a still of our conversation, and then it was gone. But I took a still of it to show Cole. But it must have been him.
What gets me is the fact that you got these guys like James Griffey, Colton Schrog, these guys that went to Agape. They've been waiting and waiting for decades for this place to close. It finally closes, but all of a sudden it's branded something else, run by the same. I mean, that's got to hit hard. You know what I mean?
It's a slap in the face to
it is.
Us survivors. And, we take this to heart as well, even though we didn't get locked up in Agape. It was like another Victory Christian Academy. It's like another New Bethany. And it's heartbreaking to see that happening, because we just take that story upon ourselves. It's as if, we got slapped in the face too.
Definitely.
Because if it happens to our fellow survivors, it's happening to us.
Well, hopefully it doesn't last long, because I mean, when Agape first opened, the internet was just new. Nobody knew anything about it. But now they're in the age of the internet.
Right.
So they do anything wrong, they're being watched big time. So
no excuse. And
right.
I want to touch base on parents that send their children to these places. We warn them, we tell them. I would like to talk about the brainwashing with parents, because I understand that we've tried and tried. We'll get into the federal level, federal legislation in just a second, and just legislation in general. We've tried so many years and nothing is happening. I feel like we need to get to the root of the problem, which I hate to say is the parents that are sending their kids to these places. If we can just educate them, I feel like we're banging our heads against the wall with legislation, and I hate to be so negative, but why not get to the parents? The only problem is the parents are brainwashed by these people. So how do you get to parents that are brainwashed? No matter how many times you say they're abusing children in this place, the pastors at these places have convinced parents that, oh, they're lying, they're making it up, it's not true. What should we do?
Even if there's proof,
right?
They're still not convinced.
They're still not convinced.
Yeah,
which is so heartbreaking.
That's the brainwashing right there.
The brainwashing.
And there was a lot of it going on in the roll-off homes, even the ones that were affiliated. The thing is, Agape even had a dorm named after roll-off, the roll-off dorm.
Oh my God.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. You know so much of it because I've had 3 survivors on my show from Agape, but you've had so many on your show.
44 of them.
44.
44 videos about Agape.
Good job.
So.
Good job.
Yeah. So, and now I got other people calling me from the Summit School in Nyack, New York, the Family Foundation School in Hancock, New York, Aspen Achievement Academy in California. It's not roll-off affiliated, but it's just as horrific. I mean, they're wrapping kids in blankets, duct taping them,
right,
and leaving them in there. And they can't go to the bathroom. They just go to the bathroom right in the blanket because they won't let them out of the blanket.
That's what they did to Liz Ionelli. And I don't know if have you interviewed Liz Ionelli or not yet?
No.
She's from the family school. And ironically, I was working on I'm a licensed massage therapist. I was working on someone, he's a survivor from the family school. And he said, I never came out with it, but because you were coming out with it and talking about it, I felt compelled to talk to you about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I interview you. And he said, yes. But they're all over the place. And it's just so sad. And
do you have any upcoming interviews coming?
I don't, but I really need to get back into it. Work has just overwhelmed me. And
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you've been so good. I think I should try to do what you do. And I think I spend so much time editing. That's why I was able to do it during the pandemic. But for each hour, it took me 8 hours to edit. Because I'm tickers, and then I'm putting my name, the survivor's name, and what school, and it's just very detailed. And then I'm cutting things out, or putting in maybe NBC or Dateline that's coinciding with the interview. So
right. Well, what I'll do is when it's over, I'll get a hold of you later on, and I'll let you know what I use, because it takes me 30-40 minutes to edit.
Oh wow.
So but some of the stuff I do that's already got the ticker going, it's already built in, so you don't have to do it.
Oh.
So, but yeah, we'll get together and talk about it later on.
That would be wonderful, and then I can just keep going.
Yeah. And it's free, so you don't have to worry about paying for it.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. So, James, New Bethany.
New Bethany.
Where's that located?
Arcadia, Louisiana. Well, it's closed.
Right.
And the boys' school closed years before the girls' school did. And I was there from late 81 to early 82. And I was sent when I was 15 for juvenile conversion therapy because our pastor told my parents when I was 6 that I was possessed by a homosexual demon. And the way that they could rid me of the demon was to beat me and isolate me up until age 15 when I could go to camp. And it was quite the experience.
You know, yeah, these pastors don't have any room to talk. In fact, I did a live show on YouTube, I think it was last week, where I found a list of 220 pages. The Baptist, I don't know if it was the Baptist Convention or some Baptist organization, put out a list, 200 pages long, of nothing but Baptist ministers, youth ministers, bishops, all that have been convicted or are doing time or already out on parole or already out of child molestation,
And
child pornography.
I can add to that because that list is only from the year 2000 until now.
Yes.
That's only the ones that were convicted, not the ones accused, only convicted.
Which means Roloff is off the hook on that.
Yeah.
Roloff is not there, but
so
should
is
be.
Ford.
Ford,
Well,
Roloff, and also my preacher that passed away, Michael Palmer. Since he passed away, I can say his full name.
yeah.
But these people need to be on that list. It's really sad.
And I would say that most of these guys, James, what I've seen from experience, the ones that rant most about homosexuality end up being homosexuals themselves.
Right.
Exactly.
They're predators.
Yes.
It's even worse. They're pedophiles. It's
With-
like breeding grounds for them.
With the sexual abuse that happened to me at New Bethany, there's no way they were heterosexual men because they were doing homosexual acts.
Yes.
Us, and we were minors.
It's like, how could they do that homosexual act unless they were homosexual? What are
Correct.
they somehow?
Correct.
So now
Yes.
it's not an abomination because they're doing it for the Lord. I mean, what the fuck is? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Please take that out.
No,
But
we're good. We're good.
In looking into the list of the 220 pages of names to hopefully expand that to other survivors and people that have made allegations.
Now you said it was strictly just the ones that were convicted.
Right.
All of those were convicted.
The 220 pages were
Right.
only convicted, not the accusation.
Right. And some of them are blacked out. It's almost like it's a classified document.
Oh, that's so
You know.
sad. It should not be blacked out. They've been
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The public.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it got so bad that the Baptist organizations were like, heck, we might as well just get it out there. I mean,
Was going to leak it for sure.
oh yeah,
And
it was bound to be leaked. Yeah. So might as well just put it out and suffer the shame.
And this sounds like a mass tort. It sounds like for a mass tort for SBC.
But the thing is, like you were saying, Jeneen, the brainwashing is so strong. Do you think it's going to deter people from going to that church? No.
Right.
You got to love the man. He's a sinner. He needs to repent. That's it. You know, that's all. They're not going to look at it and go, well, I guess I'm going to dismiss this church forever. You know, not going to happen.
Last year, I was asked to testify for HB 605 in Louisiana, which was a bill to ban conversion therapy on juveniles. And so when the bill was sent to committee, they had to make certain edits so that other people would get on board, but they completely gutted it to where religious organizations were taken out to where they would not be prosecuted for juvenile conversion therapy. And then the bill died right there. It would not pass, with some of the senators saying that we were blasphemous because we were
Isn't that
telling
crazy?
what happened to us when we were in juvenile conversion therapy facilities. So that is a slap in the face for a survivor, and then for someone to bring their personal religion into something. And we live through horrible situations. And then I just want to ask them, you know, this is your God? What we went through is your God? No.
Yeah.
And also, you know, again, I cannot help but reiterate, I'm all for religious freedom. But when you are abusing children, there should be no exemption for abusing children. That should not be exempt. And I feel like it's just an excuse to abuse children by having that block. And
right.
that block needs to be removed.
And also, a lot of these people in politics, when they hear about it and they want to try and do something about it, they start getting a flack from the far right.
Right.
Why are you doing this to this man? He's a good man. He's a man of God. He didn't do what you say he's doing. You know what I mean?
They're
so
protected.
Right. Then they pull back a little bit and go, okay, wait a minute. These people voted for me. It's all about votes too.
Right. It's about votes. It's about money.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And that needs to stop.
That's why a lot of these bills die or they just don't go through because of that.
There's no integrity.
No.
And
not at all.
Irony of that, right?
Well, and now with all of the religious organizations, these schools can operate without any licenses, any oversight, and they can open up anywhere. Within Louisiana, there are estimated 5,000 juvenile conversion therapy clinics that are unlicensed, unregistered, and no oversight.
And let's go back to HB 605. The whole thing is bogus because it's a slap in the face, because the ones that are, let's face it, therapists do not. I was just talking to a therapist about this, and at any rate, she had said, no, we do not consider that a mental illness or anything like that. Conversion therapies are a big no-no, right? So they're not even thinking about that. It's the ones that are religious. It's a religious concoction. I mean, basically, religion is the one that invented this. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any conversion therapy. So the whole bill of HB 605 is bogus.
And every state that has a ban on juvenile conversion therapy, they do not apply to religious organizations. So it's still legal in all 50 states for churches to torture kids.
So the exemption is religion on HB 605, just to reiterate.
Right.
They're the ones that started it. That's why it's bogus, and that's why I said it.
That's ridiculous.
Want to talk about more legislation? How about the federal bill? I mean, Paris Hilton is getting something in motion, but let's just face it, it's in motion. Did anybody hear about what the name of the bill is? No. George Miller started a bill in I believe it was 2010, and then he retired, and Adam Schiff picked it up. I always thought it passed in the House and it stopped in the Senate, and Gabriel Martinez, who is a survivor of Freedom Village, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's pretty up and up on politics. He said, no, Jeneen, it didn't even pass in the House. He said it didn't even make it past the committee. There is something wrong with that. There is something really wrong with that when you can't even provide simple oversight for children in these camps.
Yeah.
And what would help with that would be if the United States had a childhood bill of rights, and we're the only civilized country that doesn't.
That's not surprising at all. So, wow.
And then SB.
What a mess.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, what a mess.
Paris Hilton was there for the signing of SB 127, but correct me if I'm wrong, that was for the state of Utah to provide oversight. Is that correct?
I believe so.
He's going to look it up right now. It was signed, and Paris Hilton was there for the signing. But even though SBC 127 was passed, what is Provo Canyon? Oh, why is that open? They're still abusing children. And the thing is, in the newspaper, they had said, well, it's under new management. New management, my foot. I interviewed Rachel Davey, who was under that new management.
Yeah.
And she was abused. So that's not going to fly with me.
Yes, it's Utah.
It's Utah. And
Utah.
Does it say specifically what that is? Is it to provide oversight in teen programs? He's looking it up right now.
Okay.
Okay. So whether or not it's IFB religious, non-religious, licensed, unlicensed. And by the way, Provo Canyon is regulated by the state. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't know
It's
that.
hard to know that even when schools are regulated by the state, they're not regulated by the state, which means we need to get after the state. They're not doing their job.
Yeah.
I was pretty shocked. Regulated by the state.
Okay,
I mean-
it is the new law placing more regulations on Utah's troubled teen centers for the first time in 15 years.
Thank you.
Yes.
First time in 15 years. That's very disheartening.
Yeah, only took 15 years, right?
Right.
So that's what we're up against. I feel like we're banging our head against the wall, but the point is we're making noise. And it's better to make noise than no noise and let this go. And I just want these talk shows, Hammer podcasts, to just go viral. We need this going viral to people that don't know that, it's one thing when survivors are circulating this information.
Right.
But we already know this information. We want it to go into the hands of people that don't realize that these places exist today. I can't even tell you how many people I talk to about my story, and they say, what? There's such a thing as a reform school? I thought they did away with that. Or I thought they did away with conversion therapies. That's
Right.
still going on. They're shocked. But we need more people like that are shocked. I need people to just realize that this is a problem in the United States of America, and we just can't turn a blind eye to it.
And you were saying that it's all about the money. In 1981, for the time that I was gone, my parents paid $25,000 for me to go through conversion therapy. And that was in 81. I don't even know what it's like now.
That's really sad.
The old saying, the pray the gay away, huh? Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
It's like pray it away.
They're forcing
Yeah.
gay away is what they're doing.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they still have it going on. I've heard stories of electric shock treatment, which he was shocked too, but it's just awful. If you see a man and a man, they would shock the kid. Woman and woman, they'd shock the kid, and then they wouldn't shock them if it was a male and female. You don't torture children like that. I mean, thought of changing somebody. Just forget about all the torture.
Right. Like I was talking about before, James, when I was saying the people that rant most about homosexuality are usually ones themselves. There was a study, I can't remember, maybe you've heard of it. It was, they studied like 100 males. 50 of them, when it came to homosexuality, don't care. You know what I mean? Whatever they want to do is their business. Mm-hmm. And then you had 50 other guys that were saying, they're going to hell, homosexuality is a sin, and they put them in a room individually and showed them gay porn.
Mm-hmm.
The men who really didn't care weren't aroused. The men who were ranting against it became aroused.
Right.
I believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
They're really breeding grounds. It's just, let's convince the parents to send their kid there so we can abuse them, so we can torture them, so we can sex trafficking.
Yes. I am the most documented case of juvenile conversion therapy and juvenile human trafficking in the state of Louisiana.
They left that part out of Netflix, but Netflix did an amazing job of depicting what happened to James in a lockdown residential program.
Oh, really?
Season 2, third one down, it's Haunted.
Okay.
Season 2, third one down, called Cult of Torture. And I was on with him, supporting him, but it's his story, and it was a whole reenactment of what happened. But they left the politicians out.
Right.
Can I say this?
Yes.
Football players and politicians.
The men that came in to abuse us were the ones that were paying to be with us, the 15-year-olds. But they didn't include that in the special. And I could not have done the 3 days of taping if you had not been there. I'm telling you, it was tough.
He was shaking on set too. He was having CPTSD on the set, and his hands were shaking. I had to put my hands over him to just calm him down. But
the information that people needed to hear the most when it came to, like you said, the people that were going there to abuse the kids, They left it out. The most important part, they left out.
It was, but probably because of lawsuits. I'm sure. I can imagine.
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah. Which is understandable, I guess. But here we are. We're going to expose it. And
Yeah,
then,
they need to be exposed.
and then also in your book, Rusted Rhinestones.
Yes.
By the way, his book is on his story of what happened to him in that conversion therapy. It's called Rusted Rhinestones.
Rusted Rhinestones. Okay. Is that available? Is there a link for it?
It's on Amazon.
Okay. I'll find the link.
We'll send you one.
Okay. Yes, because I want to get these books out here. When did you write your book, Jeneen?
Gosh, I think I started in 2012.
Okay.
But when I published it, finally, it was 2020 during the pandemic. Yeah. 20.
Okay.
And it's a very difficult read, but it's a good book, really.
Half of it's a love story. I don't know if you knew that or not,
No.
Jason. Half of it's a love story. So the idea of the love story, which really happened, I just wasn't going to leave that. It wasn't even a thought process at the time when I was writing it. So when I first started writing it, I kept talking about the abuse, and I was in the get right room. So for example, they would keep girls in isolation for days, weeks, and months at a time. I didn't know it at the point. I just wanted to get away from these people. I'm locked in the isolation, and I thought to myself, what am I going to write about? The lint on the floor, the wall. I had to think of something, and I thought, well, let's astral project out of here and talk about the love story. And I needed something to break it up, the dark, because it was so dark writing this book. I needed some light, and the light is the love story, and that's what helped me through the darkest times of my life. And I thought to myself, okay, what was my life like before I got locked into this place? And so I wanted to hold on to something that was positive, and it was positive, and I wrote about the love story, and then it comes full circle. And now I'm writing the screenplay for it.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So, and we might have a connection. So I'm just going to keep on trucking with that. And that's going to be very exciting too, because I'm going to focus a lot on the love story. So, but I also want to get the audience so captivated with the love story and then connecting to the, to myself, that you fall in love with the character, that it's okay to talk about the abuse.
And throw the hammer down. Yeah, basically. Oh, by the way, this is what happened.
This happened. Yeah. But you're so caught into the love story that I guess you have to keep going, right?
Right. So, James, when did you write your book?
In 2014. I was on the reality show Utopia. It was on the Fox network, and I talked a little bit about my experience. And then I had so many people email me, thousands of people that saw me on the show, and they wanted to know the whole story. So I talked to my agent, and she says, write a book. And I was like, I can't write no book. And I did. And I won the 2016 Next Generation Indie Book Award, and I got a book tour. So I've been at this a long time with the activism, but now since I'm older and I have some physical damage from being attacked, because you come out against these people and they will come after you. And I've been beaten 3 times and stabbed twice. And it's been, so the PTSD.
Wow.
But I have to watch my back constantly.
And how do we know? The first thing that came up in my head when I heard about the stabbings, when James told me about it, is I feel like it's all connected. I feel it's those people from New Bethany.
Or the Worldwide Church of God.
Or the Worldwide Church of God, because these people are crazy.
Or their minions.
Threats, like death threats and all kinds of things, poisoning his dogs. And that's the other thing. We're coming out, I'm not going to let these people intimidate me, but we're coming out, we're naming names. These people should be in prison and they're not, and we're voicing this. If anything happens, you're a witness. I mean, that's what I'm saying. These people can get away with anything. And who's to say they won't do anything to us? But I mean, maybe I shouldn't put that out there. But
well, we just have to be cautious.
We have to be cautious.
It's all done under the name of God.
Yes. Well, both times that I was stabbed, they told me God hated me.
And quoted scripture.
Yeah, I'm like, Leviticus, never heard that before.
They always quote Leviticus. That is that old chestnut. My goodness, every time they always got to quote Leviticus.
If
Right.
you
You
get
know.
the opportunity to see 1946, the documentary, is when they changed the word from man should not lie with a child to man should not lie with a man. They changed it in 1946.
I found that very interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure that was done strategically.
Oh, yeah. 20 years before I was born. So by the 20 years is all it took for when I was 6 years old for the pastor to pull me in front of the entire congregation and start an exorcism to get the demon out of me.
And most of those exorcisms were torturing the
I
child.
had over 100 between the age of 6 and 15, 100 exorcisms. Needless to say, it didn't work.
People have been killed
Yes.
having
Right.
exorcism done to them.
Do you want to know what this sounds like, Jason? I'll tell
What?
you.
What?
It sounds like satanic sacrificing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That when you hear more and more about what James went through, it sounds like he was not worshiping God, but worshiping Satan. I feel
Yeah.
it's very demonic. And
it's-
what they did to kids, I'm sorry, in
Yeah.
cages, they would
What?
put them in cages.
Uh-huh. Cages.
Sorry, cages.
Yes.
He was in a cage and given dog food as a privilege. I don't want to
Yeah.
tell your whole story. You might want to.
Yeah, we were fed either dog food or bovine food, and our restroom was a coffee can, an empty coffee can, and we never got out of our cage unless we were to be converted.
And
Or
they couldn't
abused.
other right. It was a dungeon, like a serial killer's dungeon. And like I said before, Netflix did an amazing job. So kudos to Netflix of depicting what really goes on. And let's talk about the parents that have reached out to you that were contemplating sending their kids there. 'Cause it's
So many people said that since they read my book or they saw the Netflix special, that they are no longer going to send their child to conversion therapy. And to me, that's a huge personal win, because I always said if I could just help one child. But when Netflix, when it aired, that was in 2021, and overnight I had 50,000 emails.
Can you believe it?
Wow.
That's awesome.
It was amazing, and I answered every single one of them. It took a long time, but I did answer.
We are making headway to some parents that could be, brainwashed, and maybe they are, and then saw James's story and it made a high impact.
And a large chunk of those were people that went through conversion therapy and don't have the strength to come out about it. And what was shocking to me was how many of these boys, now men, were actually heterosexual and went through this and then got out and went on to live their life and get married and have kids, and they just can't talk about it. And they're like, keep up the good work. Well, I am going to keep up the work, but it still doesn't change what they went through. And
Sure.
I'm hoping that we can get at least the juvenile part banned. Like my last abuser died 2 years ago, so there's no way that I can get retribution. But if we can stop it from happening to someone else, then that's retribution.
Can we talk about Mac Ford real quick? Are you okay with that?
Who's Mac Ford?
Okay, so Mac Ford is the one that was running New Bethany, which is the
Okay.
one that he was in. So they had a boys' camp, a girls' camp, and then the conversion therapy for all the gays, right? But Jennifer Halter, and I'll give her name out because I know she doesn't mind having her name out. She was in the newspaper. She was in the NOLA. What is it called? She was in the New Orleans newspaper. We'll just
Okay.
The time to you.
Okay. And I was there as her rape advocate, but she did say during one of her, when she made the report, because there was at this point, the statute of limitation was 30 at that point, 30 years
After your 18th birthday.
after your 18th birthday. So she was able to make a report. And these people in Louisiana, it's like you need a passport to get into that state. I swear to God, I have never seen anything like it.
Passport.
The girls were so-called passport. The girls were, I call them girls, ladies, survivors, were prepping me right before. I guess a rape advocate just didn't show up, couldn't make it. And when I heard that they were going to pretty much interrogate a survivor during one of these interviews by asking them what were they wearing, I flipped out. I said, "What the hell? Are you kidding me? They can't say that." And because I was so adamant about that, they said, "We want you as Jennifer Halter's rape advocate." So I went in there, and she said she witnessed not in the conversion therapy, but in the boys' camp. Whenever the boys were going across, she said she heard them being raped, just in the boys' camp, not even the conversion therapy. So they were raping them like out in the open, where Jennifer could hear it and see it. And she was raped so many times, sodomized. I'll tell you this, she was sodomized by another staff member. So these preachers think any preacher that came on,
What?
Can you see? Okay, it was just something else that popped up. I think I have a virus. Shit. Can you hear me or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, thank God. Pieces of Victory, Zoom. Let me get back into Skype. I don't know how you can see me because mine just got wiped out. Here's Skype. Let me. Okay. Sorry, you may want to delete it. Okay. At any rate, she could hear it. Boys getting raped, and she saw, witnessed, and then she was sodomized. So it was a free-for-all. Basically, a woman, by the way they dressed, by the way they smelled, their demeanor, it was all their fault. So it was like letting men off the hook on raping women and other boys.
And little girls.
And they were little girls that were raped. Jennifer was only 13. And they said after they sodomized her, he said to her, "Clean up your mess." Can you imagine that? And then going in the chapel where they would, now you're a rape victim, right? And now you're getting scripture from he's a preacher that is raping the girls in there, quoting scripture of how it's justified by what you wear, how you smelled, and it going down. Jezebels. Yes. So not only are you raped, but now you're getting reinforced the psychological and spiritual damage. This is why I'm bringing it up and going over this, so people will wake up and smell the coffee about what the hell is going on in this country. This animal was not even indicted, let alone prosecuted. He wasn't even indicted. He got away with serial raping and probably murder. There's probably dead bodies on the premises.
Was it boys and girls that he was raping?
Yes.
Both.
And girls.
Yeah, I'm a survivor. Yeah.
So his conversion therapy was on the same property. They were just in different buildings. There was a girls' camp, a boys' camp, and then the conversion therapy. And a lot of the boys and girls didn't know about this conversion therapy.
Well, we weren't allowed outside our building. We did not see the other people. We weren't even allowed to speak to each other in our cages. So if we did make a noise or talk or whatever, they beat us.
And same thing with like the girls and boys camp. Like they talked to each other. They couldn't even look at a boy. They would be beat. And the girls were beaten. I'm talking licks, but licks were a beating.
Yeah.
Raising a board so high and coming down. I know a lot about what went on in New Bethany because I was around the survivors and they told me their stories.
I was able to file my complaint with the state of Louisiana before my original statute of limitations was over. But in Bienville Parish, the DA there would not hear it. They would not, the police department would not take my statement. So I had to go to a different parish and do it there to get on the books.
There is something wrong with that. And then the documentary of Simone, Teresa Fry, and Jennifer Halter, and who else? Am I missing something? Teresa Fry, Joanna Wright. Joanna Wright is very disheartening to them. It's just such a slap in the face to all those New Bethany survivors about how this guy wasn't even indicted. And I'll have to say, in the documentary, they were saying, why can't we make a report here? And they were saying, you have to go to the police department and make a report. And we asked, where's the police department? I don't know. And then when they finally took the report of Jennifer Halter, at the end, he said, well, you're the first person that made a report. It's BS. She wasn't the first person that made a report. Simone Jones ran away from, is it Simone Jones?
Yes.
Or Simone ran away from New Bethany when she was a kid and told the cops. They brought her back to the place.
They brought everybody back.
They brought her back. That's a report. That should have been a report, and they never did it. I can't even tell you how many children had made reports of that place, but they didn't keep it because they were protecting the creature. Which I think that whole state needs to be sued.
Good luck with that. Oh, by the way, James, you said you were there in 81.
Yes.
Where in the hell was Roloff? Did you ever see him?
No. I saw Mac Ford and Larry Rapier and the people, the boys that were there in the facility with me. But I did not see Roloff.
Where the hell was he? Oh, that's right. He was making millions going around and asking for donations.
He was on his private jet.
Yeah, I've heard him. I've heard him talk. I've listened to a lot of his sermons, and I've heard him talk about homosexuality, and it's not compelling.
When the state shut down the boys' school, New Bethany, Mac Ford sued the state of Louisiana for lost income of $800,000 a month, and won. After they closed the school for abuse, he won.
That's unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Somebody was greasing palms somewhere.
Oh, definitely. Well, even the governor, Edwin Edwards, whenever he was governor back then, he would make speeches referring to Mac Ford. They knew and did nothing. It's very disheartening.
Somebody had mentioned through the grapevine that Lester Roloff faked that death in the plane crash. I'm sorry, I said private jet. I meant private plane. So he was on the plane with the girls and the Honeybee Quartet, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Honeybee Quartet,
Yeah.
He was actually IFB, right? You grew up at IFB, yeah. And the Rebecca Home for Girls was like right near his congregation. But at any rate, someone had said he faked that death and he's got to be dead now, but do you know anything about that?
I haven't heard that. I know I did go to his funeral.
Oh, you actually went to the funeral?
Yes, I was actually 10, so I didn't have a choice. My dad, he's not anymore, but he was really enthralled with this man. He loved Lester Roloff like you wouldn't believe. He was a follower. He was a disciple. But not anymore. Thank goodness.
Did you see Lester Roloff's body?
I talked to him.
No, I mean
he was alive.
When you were at the funeral.
No, it was a closed casket. It was a closed casket.
Okay.
It was at the Memorial Coliseum in Corpus Christi. That's where they had it, at the Coliseum. There's a lot of people there. Wow. A lot of brainwashed idiots.
Yeah, that's very scary. It's definitely a cult, that's for sure.
I mean, they have the plane on display at some museum over there, where it's all wrecked, But what's ironic about it is, there was a sermon that he did like a 6 months before he died, and he was talking about he had to travel in his plane. The plane was called the Liberty Bell, was the name of it, and he said that while he was flying in his plane, angels were holding up his wings and keeping him safe. I said, "Yeah, I was gonna say they must have been on a coffee break." Yeah, they must have said to hell with this shit and just let go.
But unfortunately, there's followers.
Oh,
to this day.
There's still people sending money to New Bethany. still to this day, there are patrons that are sending money.
Even though it's
And
closed.
It's closed, yes.
And let's just reiterate for the audience that doesn't really know that Clemenson, who is running Agape, is IFB, which they're followers of Lester Roloff.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
all connected. So
He has so many fingers and so many pies that Roloff did. It's amazing to me just how much it was almost like worship this man.
right, as if he was God.
Yeah.
That's scary.
We got the same thing from the cult I grew up in, which was the Worldwide Church of God. My parents worshiped Herbert W. Armstrong and not God. And then when when Mac Ford came to our church with his choir of girls, then that's when they met Larry Rapier, and Larry Rapier is the one who told our pastor about the conversion therapy. But the reason our two churches met was because of Ambassador College in Big Sandy, Texas, was owned by the Worldwide Church of God, and Lester Roloff wanted to buy it to have a huge facility, but the sale did not go through.
Right. I heard Roloff talk about Big Sandy before. It didn't end well there.
No.
So, wow.
These people just need to be accountable for their actions. Clemenson's needs to be held accountable. The politicians protecting them should be held accountable. It has to stop. I think if we can set an example in Missouri of how things should be and you should have integrity, then maybe the rest of the states will follow suit. I'm hoping.
Yeah,
But that
hopefully.
accountable. You don't let a criminal fly like that. That's just crazy.
When I did a podcast with Donna, she was at the Rebecca home, and she says something which really I didn't think about before. She said Roloff's church was called the People's Baptist Church. Jim Jones's church was called the People's Temple.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
thinking, yeah,
That chills.
yes, yes.
And Jim Jones started in the Worldwide Church of God.
Did he?
Yeah, he was part of our congregation before he branched out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. That's where
Explains a lot.
that's where the term they drank the Kool-Aid. That's where it comes from.
Literally.
Yes, literally. The only
And
thing Roloff didn't have anybody drinking Kool-Aid. So, but he was an extremely racist man too. Very racist. So, I mean, South Texas, where I'm from, there's a lot of Hispanics down there. A lot of people from Mexico. And he wouldn't call them Hispanics. He called them Lubricanos. Now we all know what that's about. That's basically calling them a greaser, basically. That's
racial
yes, very racist. And he would, there were black people there too. Not many, but there were a few. And he'd come by on his plane. I was talking to somebody about it, and I said he would come with baskets full of watermelon. Here you go, guys. I'm like, my God, how racist can you be? You know what I mean?
Right. They
So
just don't care. Even in California, Michael Palmer, and this is during a sermon. These are during sermons, and he was racist during sermons in a liberal state. Well, we thought it was liberal. I'm not sure now.
California?
Not right now.
California is pretty liberal. Very liberal. So the whole
But
West Coast, basically.
In 1988, I mean, he just.
Well, maybe not.
He was racist. No, it was liberal then.
Oh, was it?
Pretty racist and didn't care about child abuse. Said, go ahead and call social services, but they're not going to do anything. They're very brave against authority.
Well, they've never been held accountable for anything.
Exactly.
Right. They throw that freedom of religion around. So it makes the politicians back off. You're violating the Second Amendment or First Amendment, whatever it is.
First.
First Amendment.
I
So,
remember Michael Palmer saying, well, the cops, they know who you are. They'll just bring you back. And the cops are my friends. So he was
yeah.
in cahoots with the police department. And
Yeah, I think Agape had some guys from the police department working there.
right. So everybody was sleeping with each other, so to speak.
Yep.
And that
Yes.
needs to stop.
Yeah.
To stop.
Until more people can get together and basically, first of all, vote the politicians out of office and get some people in there that are willing to take a stand against these homes. I mean, that's probably one of the first things you could do, or petition or something. Advocacy.
Do you know anything about Senator Sarah Gelser?
No.
From Oregon. She is making it very difficult for anybody, you can't just rebrand in another state. Once you get a slap on the wrist, you can't just take and, leave the state and then rebrand another school. So her model of how things should be ran with oversight should be implemented on a federal level.
Well, even some of the state-run facilities, like you were saying, even though they're regulated,
They're
abuse
not
still
really
happens there.
Right. There's really not the oversight that we're looking for here.
Well, the thing with that is, being that it's government-run or state-run, they're held accountable. I mean, they actually get sent to jail or prosecuted or something like that. With these, right, with these religious homes, they usually go to an unlicensed a state that where you don't have to get a license to run a home.
That's
And
like
then,
home in Florida.
right, yes. Then they set up camp, so to speak, in the middle of nowhere, miles away from civilization.
Or Mexico. He had one in Mexico too.
Right.
And then don't forget about what is the one, Kidnapped for Christ?
Right.
Escuela Caribe. That was in Dominican Republic.
The big move now with conversion therapy, being as it is getting so much attention for juvenile conversion therapy, they are moving the camps out of the country to countries to where there are no age limits or anything. So you could send a 6-year-old. But that is definitely something that's in the move.
And you get to rape all the kids you want too. It's ridiculous.
It is grounds for pedophiles.
And
it really is.
They get to abuse the children in other countries as well and call it missionary work.
That's disgusting. Like I said, it's satanic to me. This whole thing is demonic. And then also Kidnapped for Christ. Let me just give my 2 cents into this. He was going to stay there until he was 21. How unconstitutional is that? He's a U.S. citizen, taken out of the U.S. by his parents, locked up in a conversion therapy because they couldn't accept the fact that he's gay. He's in the Dominican Republic until he's 21. He turned 18, and if it wasn't for someone that knew him, was it a neighbor?
A neighbor.
A neighbor knew him, went to bat for him, tried to go to the U.S. Embassy at first. That was his first trip. Couldn't get anywhere with the U.S. Embassy and had to do it again.
Right.
You know the story, too. Correct me if I'm wrong. And finally got him out. But it was like pulling teeth to get this kid out, even after 18.
Right.
Even after 18.
And of course,
they were going to leave him in there until he was 21. No crime committed.
right.
Most of these kids don't even commit crimes.
And most of the time, they have no ID, they have no passport. Try and get back into the States.
Right?
It's difficult.
It is difficult without the ones that locked you up in the first place.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't touched on here is when you go into one of these places, their parents sign custody over to the facility leaders, so they could take kids across state lines with no questions asked.
That's a good point.
And so, like we were told, if the people came, if the authorities came, run into the woods. We'll find you later. If the authorities came, I'd be running my mouth. I'd be like, excuse me.
Damn right.
Something.
And then even
singing like a bird.
And even then, that's questionable because then you have the authorities that are in cahoots with all these places, and then they just bring the kids right back, and then the kids get it 100 times worse.
And then you and then you wonder why they have trust issues
Right.
afterwards.
So sad.
Man,
Well, we covered a lot with legislation, or the lack thereof.
right. When did New Bethany close, James?
The boys' home closed in '83, and the girls' home, I believe, was 2012,
God,
2011.
That's a long time.
Wow.
That's so sad.
Yeah, the boys' home closed. The state shut it down, and then finally the state shut down the girls' home. But I don't understand why they let so much time go in between the two.
Are you going to sit here and tell me, Jason, that all these survivors didn't make a report, didn't tell authorities about the child abuse? They're not doing their job.
No.
Not doing their job. They're cover up after cover up after cover up.
It's a corrupt system.
It is.
Very
we need
corrupt.
we need to clean these people out with RAID.
And the problem
Something.
is, by the time this happens, like you said, with the new home for girls, most of the people that were doing the crimes are dead.
Yes.
Or, you can't do anything to them.
Right. Exactly. Now they're really untouchable. Just like Palmer.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you're going to put an 80-something-year-old man in prison? No. They're going to probably put him in a home somewhere. Put him under house arrest or something like that.
They'll put an person on him and leave it at home. And it's just wrong. And knowing, I researched the last surviving abuser, found his address, went to the district attorney and said, okay, this is the man right here. This is him. And he was like, why do you have his address? Do I need to lock you up? What are you going to do?
Oh my God.
I was like, I'm telling you, he did it. This is the man. And then other people came forward as well. And not a thing. Did not even send him a letter. But no, I wasn't threatening the man. I was just showing him this is where you can go pick him up.
And making his job easier for him.
Right. I mean, you didn't go to his house and threaten him.
No.
You went straight to the district attorney.
Have that information if you had a different agenda? You wouldn't be doing that.
Right.
You would be obvious. These people are stupid and they're covering things up. They're stupid and they're covering things up. They're protecting.
Well, I'm
abusers.
speculating, but I'm pretty sure that this is pure speculation on my part, but I'm pretty sure that they paid the police department, that they paid these people just to turn a blind eye.
Sure.
It would not surprise me at all.
Right.
Not at all.
And it must have been a pretty big sum because they keep doing it.
And more homes keep popping up.
It's never ending. They rebrand. When my abuser was caught and arrested in Louisiana for abusing boys, all charges were dropped 3 weeks later. They sent him to another facility in South Carolina where he was arrested again with a boy in a cage in his underwear. All charges were dropped. He moved to North Carolina. In North Carolina, they said, you cannot work with children. And so he moved back to Louisiana and lived to a ripe old age.
Can you believe that? Naked with a boy in a cage. Really? And we let that go.
It's kind of like the Catholics, the Catholic priests, they ship them from parish to parish.
Right.
They commit their crimes and then they move.
So when are we going to have a bill that says, okay, freedom of religion, but you can't abuse children? How about that?
I'm just ready for freedom from religion.
Yeah. Yeah. But you have all these barriers on the way. You got lobbyists, you have advocates, you have brainwashed church members who will go to bat for these people.
Right. And it's almost they think that we're just out to get people who are religious, and we're not. We're out to get abusers that are abusing our children. And I think what happens is a lot of religious people, if they get so offended by us, including myself, that they don't see the big picture. The picture is, okay, we're all about freedom of religion. I'm not I'm not a religious basher. I'm an abuser basher. If you're abusing children, you need to be held accountable. That's the bottom line.
And the argument that I get from people is like, well, those weren't real Christians. Well, they enjoy all of the benefits of the Christians, like the good Christians, but the good Christians don't come out against the bad Christians. Because if they do, they're going to face regulations of their own, and they don't want it.
They're
I
afraid
feel
of
like
it.
to hold people accountable with, if anything, they need to be mad at somebody taking on the flag of Christianity or whatever the religion is, right? I would be so upset. Hey, you're representing us and you are abusing children. You need to be held accountable.
I think most of it is out of fear of being excommunicated from the church. You know, if you're an avid church member, all your friends are there. Yes, who you hang around with. Then they shun you. They're afraid of being shunned.
It's your identity.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And the tax exemption.
And the tax exemption.
Good point, James.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. The millions of dollars and no taxes. Must be nice.
You know what I think should happen? All these tax exemptions, right? If you are caught being an abuser and you had all these tax exemptions, I think they need to retro all of that, and you owe the IRS everything because you messed up. That should be a penalty.
Yeah, don't just send them to prison. Give them a fine as well.
Right.
Yes.
Give them a fine as well.
And don't let them declare bankruptcy before the survivors get a chance to have a say. Because even with the Southern Baptist Convention and the list that we were talking about earlier, some of the people are already declaring bankruptcy for bankruptcy protection so they can't get sued by survivors.
Oh my God. So they're preparing.
Well, that's what our legal system does. It gives them years to prepare.
Right.
Definitely.
Terrible.
Yeah, they're protected pretty well, which they shouldn't be.
No.
Right. And even after they're caught being abusers, the congregation still donates money to them.
Oh, I wasn't going to say this, and I want people to research this, please, but the Republican National Platform includes juvenile conversion therapy. It's part of the platform, the nation platform. That needs to be removed. It has to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that we don't need.
Right.
I mean,
and it's sad that it's part of the platform.
It is.
It really is sad.
Yeah.
But maybe there are Republicans that don't even realize that that's part of the platform.
Well, I'm not a fan of
That could be.
Jared Kushner, but he came out publicly and said that if we do not get this juvenile conversion therapy out of our national platform, then we're going to get slaughtered in the elections because it's just wrong. And there are probably millions of survivors because just the time that I was there, and that was a brief moment in all the years that these places are still open. And ABC did a special on catching these pastors that were running juvenile conversion therapy camps. And they said out of the 5 that they found, there were within 100 miles, there was 1,000 more. 1,000 more
God.
within 100 miles.
God.
That's so sad.
And like you said, 100,000, hundreds of thousands of, or maybe 1 million victims, survivors. You got to remember, Roloff started the Home in 1958 or 1960, Rebecca Home. So this has been going on way too long.
Right.
Way too
I
long.
just wanted to point out that even the LGBTQIA community, they don't realize that there's exemptions with the conversion therapies because they think, rah, 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 we're banning the conversion therapies. But they don't realize that the exemption is religion.
Right.
And I had pointed it out to a couple of young LGBTQIA communities, and they just had no clue at all.
I have a question, because I'm kind of ignorant to this stuff, but what does the I and the A stand for?
James?
Intersex and asexual.
Okay. All right. I've always heard LGBTQ, but
Right.
never
Right.
IA. It's like IA. Okay, wait a minute. I
Unfortunately, and I understand the acronym getting longer because
Uh-huh.
everybody wants to be recognized, but it's not good politically for us. Okay, LGBTQ for me,
It's fine.
it covers enough
Mhm.
because I'm old. I remember when we just had LGBT and the rainbow flag. Okay, well that was all encompassing, so we thought at the time. But now we have so much infighting because, well, I'm not represented and this flag doesn't represent me. And I just want to take some of the younger people and just shake them a little bit and say, okay, darling, at the time all of this came to be, it was illegal for us to go into certain stores. Okay, we could not go dress shopping for a drag queen. We could not do this. You could not go in. They could throw you out. They could have you arrested. We would see the little rainbow sticker on a door and we were in heaven. We would go to these places because we were allowed in them. But when it comes to history and our history, they have no idea. The younger generations, they don't know what it was like not to be able to get married or not to be able to rent an apartment, not to be able to keep a job, not to be able to, well, we still can't donate blood unless you're celibate for 3 months. There's just so many rules that we had, and we fought and fought and fought, and now we're going backwards, and I can't stand it.
I remember, I think it was back in the 70s, where they listed homosexuality as a mental disorder.
Mhm.
I think they took it off, though. But
They did.
2016, they took it off.
yeah, it was considered a mental disorder.
Up for that long. 2016. Holy smokes, that's a long
Jeneen,
time.
Jeneen, everything takes time with these people. Everything,
Oh.
whether it's years, decades, these people never do anything quickly at all.
Right.
And my partner died in Iraq before Don't Ask, Don't Tell was overturned.
Uh-huh.
So we had to hide, or else he would have been discharged.
Isn't that sad? And yet he's fighting for the country.
And he and I met in junior high school, and he died in 2006. So when I
were you
do,
were you two
Pardon?
married?
no, it wasn't legal then.
Okay.
But when I went to the recruiter's office when I was 18, they almost punched me in the face and pushed me out the door because I was so effeminate. So there's a lot of things have changed, but the kids that are not, oh, I'm not political, well, you better get there because we're going backwards fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because marriage equality is jeopardy
Yeah,
now
it's up.
again.
So yeah. And it wasn't until President Obama signed in Lord. Okay, well anyway, that he signed to where it was no longer legal to fire you from your job because you're gay. And I forget the year, but it was Obama who did that.
Yeah, there was.
Maybe sometime in 08.
I don't know. I had a brain fart.
Because I
2000.
remember the recession was 08, and I just prayed for him for second term in office because I wanted to save my house. So I'm thinking 08.
Oh wait.
around then. We'll have to look it up. Don't quote us on it.
We won't. But wow.
Do you want to talk about podcasts at all? Or no?
I would like to get a little more ready first.
Okay. We'll hold off on that.
Okay. Yeah. You're welcome anytime, James.
Well,
Come
thank
on.
you.
Janine has my number. So, and anytime if you want to come on, I can schedule you. Or
Okay.
Janine, you as well, Janine.
Okay.
Well,
Awesome.
You two are
Being as
welcome.
the Netflix thing with me, when you watch the Netflix, if you want to really get into what happened, then I would love to come back and discuss it with you.
Okay.
Because they go into great detail about what we went through, but they omitted quite a bit. You're not
Okay.
prepared for what you're about to watch.
So it's Haunted season 2 or 3?
Episode 3, Cult of Torture.
Episode 3. Okay. All right. I will watch it. Definitely.
Thank you.
And then I will
Yes.
probably send you over something from NOLA. It was the documentary of the Jennifer Halter story. I'll send that over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, James and Jeneen. This is wow.
Having us.
I can't even tell you how great of a podcast this was. I learned so much.
Thank you so much for having us, and hopefully we'll make some noise for the new boys' home that's on the premises of where Agape was.
I feel a protest coming.
Stone of Hope. I think we need to do another.
I think it's Stone of Help.
Oh, Stone of Help.
Yeah, I think it's what it's comes from a Bible verse. I mean, they could have picked a better name.
Sounds like they just need to get stoned.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, they need to get a bong in there and relax and chill, man. You know. But like I said, this has been amazing. Jeneen, if you want to share this on your channel as well, that's fine. And like I said, go to Jeneen's channel and subscribe to her.
It's
Pieces of Victory. Yes.
Pieces of Victory. You've got it.
Like I said, send me the links to your books so I can put them on and I can promote those as well.
That's awesome.
So
great, Jason.
Yes. James,
appreciate
you're my new best friend, man. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you. Janine, you're always my best friend. So
for my book, I write under my drag name is Fifi Frost. So it's not by James Swift, it's by Fifi Frost.
Fifi Frost. I will remember that. I've been to drag shows. I love those things. Those are awesome. Me and my wife go to the drag shows when they're here in Wisconsin. It's a blast.
Well, we're this close to losing the ability to have drag shows.
Oh.
You know, because they're calling us groomers and everything. And I think it's really ironic when they say that I'm a groomer. And I was like, I was groomed at church, y'all, not at a drag show.
Right.
Yeah. And that's one more thing before we go. That's another thing. Somehow, for some reason, Christians always seem to lump in gays with pedophiles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Every time.
I think the reason for that, they're taking their eyes off of themselves because they're the criminals and they're putting it on someone else.
Go back to Anita Bryant in the 70s. That was her message. That she said that we were after the children. We were trying to recruit children because we could not reproduce. And that's where the whole message started, that we were pedophiles. And a lot of people have died because of that.
Yeah, she should have never said that.
Away from the root of the problem.
Yeah.
It's a distraction.
When it comes to pedophilia, whether you're homosexual or bisexual or straight, it's in every one of those things.
But the percentage is different because like for pedophiles for LGBTQIA people is like 3%. Pedophiles for heterosexual men is like 82%.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
That don't surprise me at all. Not at all.
Right.
So, man, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Let me tell you.
Yeah, thank you, James.
Yes.
And I research 24/7. So if I say it, you can take it to the bank.
We'll give you the documents to back it up with.
Yes.
Like I said, you have a way of getting a hold of me. So if you want to do that, that'd be great.
I will.
All right, you two. Thanks for coming on.
Bye, Jason.
Appreciate it. Yes, we will see you.
Podcast.
Yes. And remember, subscribe to the Pieces of Victory channel on YouTube.
And I always say at the end of my show, if you have a 1% chance that this could happen to your child, why would you take that risk?
Damn right.
That's important to parents. It's really the root of the problem. You know, if we can get to the parents to not send their children to these places, you know, to think twice about it.
Yes. Yes. Don't send them and they start shutting down, hopefully.
Just accept your children, please.
Yes.
Very simple.
Yes. All right, you two.
All right.
We'll see ya. You have a
Bye.
great day. Bye.
You too.